Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining in. My name is Naisha Davis. I am the program manager here with the Holding Space Foundation, and I'm so excited for our permission to pivot with Dr. Bryanna Campbell. Okay, Dr. Bryanna Campbell offers an exciting perspective on self-discovery and empowerment. She is the founder of Vital Voyages Psychological Services, where she has helped countless clients empower themselves to change their lives. Dr. Bryanna Campbell is passionate about helping Black women, particularly millennials, empower themselves to create the lives they want to step away from and from limiting ideas of where they're supposed to do. Her work centers on helping people build meaningful connections with themselves, and while others helping them discover and owning their authentic voice. When Dr. Campbell is not seeing clients in her practice, she can be found tending to her plant collection, having a bowl of steaming hot pho, and watching comedy specials. Please let me know if you have any questions at the end and we can get going. Thank you so much, Dr. Bryanna Campbell. We are ready for you.
Hello, 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 everyone. It's so good to see you. It's so good to see some familiar names. I am excited to be here with each and every one of you. As Naisha so beautifully introduced me, my name is Dr. Bryanna Campbell, and I just want to first start my gratitude for the Holding Space Foundation for allowing me to collaborate with them once again. And I also just want to express my gratitude for being here with each of you this evening. Well, for me, it's evening. For some of you, it might be a different time. And for anyone watching the replay, I'm happy to be here with you too. All right. So first things first, I am going to share my screen. Right. Is everyone able to see this? Can I see any thumbs up?
All set.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so we know that we are here this evening for permission to pivot, the power of starting over right where you are. So anyone who's familiar with me knows that this is a practice that I like to do. Anyone who is new to me, I often like to take an intentional moment of reverence before I ever ask anyone to get reflective. So we know there's so much demand on our time and on our resources from our jobs, from our families, from our friends, you name it. There's somewhere that our energy often is being asked to go. So you have chosen to take 1 hour out of your day to be more reflective and present with yourself. And I want to make sure that we acknowledge that. And I want to make sure that we name the gratitude for that as well. So what I want us to do is take a moment and do whatever practice helps you feel present. So for some people, that might be taking a deep breath. For some people, that might be just doing a quick stretch. For others, that might be taking that moment, putting your phone or your computer on Do Not Disturb so that you can have your full focus here. Whatever combination that is for you, let's just take about 10 seconds or so and do that. Right. So I want you to get comfortable. I want you to go get your snacks, go get your drinks. If it's evening near you, go get your dinner, whatever is necessary for you to feel comfortable in this moment. You might be inclined to take some notes. You will be asked to do a little bit of reflection for yourself. So I would encourage you to get some paper and something to write with close by if you don't already have it close. Okay, let's go within. So, if we're going within, you should probably know who you're talking to. That would be helpful. I would want to know who is guiding me in a situation like this. So, again, I'm Dr. Bryanna Campbell. I am a licensed clinical psychologist. I have a virtual therapy practice in the state of North Carolina that serves Black women who are building their lives past who they were allowed to be and who they were told they were supposed to be. I'm a very deep feeler. I'm the person that notices many things and often kind of notices patterns as well. So in my professional life, I have had to pivot myself. So I felt really called to do this workshop. And when I was asked, I was like, this feels really timely and really aligned. So I've felt the pivot many times and I've had to do so. And in true me fashion, I noticed that there was often like a sequence of events and a sequence of feelings that often came up for me whenever I noticed that it was time to start engaging with a pivot. And I also started noticing this in my clinical work as well, especially in the most recent years where Black women are having very let's call it specific experiences in their workplaces. We're going to get more into that a little bit later. But beyond work, to know me, just the human being past the career, I am Jamaican American. I'm first generation born in the United States. I tell people I get the privilege of enjoying fried dumpling and callaloo, but I also get to experience biscuits and greens as well. And for that, I am grateful. All right. I am also a plant lover, like Naisha mentioned a little bit earlier. I have a collection of about like 50 to 60 indoor plants. I checked today. There has been one casualty, but we still move. It's okay. We will recover. And then lastly, if you ever catch me in the wild, it will likely be at the big three for me, which would be your TJ Maxx, your Marshalls, your Home Goods. If I'm outside, that's probably where I am. All right. That's a little bit about me. All right, first thing, I want us to get to know why each of you are here this evening. So I'm going to ask you all a lot of questions. So if you could engage with me in the chat, that would be so helpful. First thing I want to ask you is, what's the pivot that you're considering right now? Um, could you, if you feel comfortable sharing that in the chat, please do. If you're not comfortable sharing in the chat, that is completely okay. If you just want to jot it down for yourself, record yourself a voice memo so that you can participate. Something just to get us in this reflective place of what is the pivot that you might be considering right now? And by the way, I don't know, I just know I need something else is absolutely a satisfactory and complete answer at this workshop. So feel free, if that's your answer, we're open to that. Naisha, could you read me some of the responses, please?
Absolutely. All right. So we have new job, career. Someone also shared career pivot. Someone shared, I'm just not sure. I just feel like a shift is happening. We have family boundaries and career life, job change, retirement in 589 days, moving to Ghana for a year. Someone said double career, building a brand, moving toward retirement, 63.95 years young. Yes. Leaving corporate career and entrepreneurship with my mom.
Lee, thank you all so much for sharing. It sounds like a really like a multitude of reasons, and I would love to dive into each of them, but I know we only have the hour, so I'll keep it cute. But thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable. All right, next question. I'm going to ask everyone to just get a little creative for a moment. We started our workshop with music. We will continue this theme. When you think about this pivot that you want to make in your life, what song best describes your experience? I'll go first. So say we're making a pivot playlist. Food for thought. Hey, if you want to make one for yourself, that would be a cool exercise. What song would you want to contribute to the playlist? So for me, I'll go first. My song would be "The Thrill Is Gone" from BB King. It's over for me. I need something else. Something's got to give. Something has to change. So tell me in the chat what song best describes what pivoting feels like, the idea or your consideration for pivoting feels like. Naisha, if you could let me know what people
Yeah.
are saying.
So I'm seeing Positivity by Incognito, Level Up by Sierra, Golden from about three people, as well as including me, Scream, Trouble Doesn't Last. Someone said the one that goes, oh no, no, no. Sorry. Wait, I hope I didn't mess that up. Ain't No Stopping Us Now. Yes, Double Time. Love Don't Live Here Anymore. Time by Jade Nova. Or was that Jade? I apologize. Optimistic. There's classics. They're throwing out classics. Okay.
Mm, lovely. I love this. Thank you all so much for sharing. What is it like to start this workshop by asking you about a song, by asking you to get creative first? What's that like for you?
Someone shared affirming. Another person shared, I like it.
Lovely. Good. And then if people have feelings that come up throughout the presentation, feel free to put that in the chat too. All right. So we've gotten creative. Next thing we need to do is have a disclaimer. So I think it's important for us to name something. I wanted us to start with levity, start with lightness, and then we do have to get kind of real quick. So we know that many of the systems and the industries that we have invested in may not be serving us in the ways that we initially thought that they would, or in the ways that they actually promise us that they would. There's a lot of change, and there might be a lot of heaviness that accompanies these changes that many of us are experiencing. We have seen the reports about so many Black women being either blatantly or strategically forced out of workplaces. We are seeing entire landscapes and industries change. We're seeing the impact of socio-political climates permeate all parts of our lives in ways that we genuinely can't afford to ignore. And beyond that, we are changing too, just as human beings. Many of us may be looking for more. Some of us may be looking for less. That person that was talking about retiring really soon in however many days, maybe there's an idea of looking for something different, perhaps. Some people are looking for a deep sense of fulfillment, to live lives where they get to decide what meaning is for them. Some people may be prioritizing their physical health and their wellness. And some people may be pivoting truly for their own survival and the survival of their families and anyone that they care for. And I want each of you to know all of those reasons are valid. All right. So I wanted us to start with some signs that might come up when a pivot might be necessary, or if you're wanting to consider a pivot. So I divvied this up between internal signs that you might experience and external signs. Now, I want to make a caveat here. You don't have to experience all of these things or any of these things, but I did want to give you some language about what could be coming up for you when you are thinking about making a pivot. So I'll go through all of them. I might spend a little time on one or two, but just letting you know they're here for your reference. So when we talk about those internal signs, I tell people to think about tension. So there's that like emotional tension that we can feel of like something's just not right. I don't know what it is. I can't really put my finger on it, but I just know something's not right. I would also talk about physical tension. Your shoulders are up to your ears often. You might notice that your jaw is tense. You might literally experience like physical headaches. You might feel like you just your stomach hurts. You just feel like you could throw up. Those are signs of tension that we may experience internally. We might experience some changes in motivation. So the thing that used to light you up that could get you out of bed no longer really does the same thing, maybe to the same intensity or perhaps even at all. The idea of getting a promotion no longer makes you light up. It's just like, no thanks. I'm not that interested. Or it doesn't feel the same as it would used to. I encourage people to think about if you have a curiosity that just won't quit. So if you just keep thinking about what it would be like to open that winery in Tuscany, or what might that be like if I actually just open that Airbnb on that one island wherever I choose, or if I just want to go skiing in the Alps, like whatever that is, if you have this consistent curiosity about this whole different life, that might let you know that maybe you're not feeling as satisfied in your current experience. One that I know that we are likely all familiar with is exhaustion, that physical exhaustion, that spiritual exhaustion, might be financially exhausting. The idea that there's a lot of, you just feel like you are taxed often. There's so much being asked of you. And then the idea of being trapped. So when I talk about this, I want you to think about the feeling like there's no moves left. I don't know if anyone ever used to play solitaire on their home computer or their PC or on their phone or whatever the case may be. But whenever there was a time, there would be this card, the card would say like there's no more moves left. You just feel like there's nothing left for you to do. And then I want us to talk about perspective shifts. So sometimes what matters to us when we begin something may not be the same things that matter to us in this present part of our lives. For example, maybe at one part of your life, status was really important to you, but now autonomy is more important to you. Perhaps a different part of life, money was most important to you, and then a different part of life, making meaning and contribution is more important to you. So just some things to think about. And then I want us to talk about the external signs that you might notice. So one thing you might notice are mass moves. So what do I mean when I say that? when we see people who we believe and experience as being competent and good at what they're doing, and many of them start leaving all around the same time, that is often an external sign that something is happening in that environment. So I will tell a quick anecdotal story. I used to work at a group practice, and one of the reasons that I chose to work at that group practice was because there were other Black women clinicians there. I was like, sign me up. I want to be here. Go ahead and put my name on the door. I'm excited. Couple months go by. Both of those women, independent of each other, sat me down and were like, just wanted to let you know I'm leaving. I said, that that's a sign. Something's going on. I don't have to know everything about what's going on, but what I know is if all the Black women are leaving a place, I want to know why. I want to know why, and before I know why, I might just start packing up myself. That might just be me. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that. So another external sign is that change seems inevitable. Again, some of the industries that many of us work in seem like, can anyone kind of just think of the idea of, does it seem like one stream of revenue no longer feels like enough? It feels like you have to do more than one thing just to get the same or even a little bit more of what you're used to. Can anyone relate to that? I'm seeing the chat like come up. Are people saying
Yes,
yes, Naisha?
exactly.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. Yes. And yes for me. Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So this external sign that pivots might be necessary is that what used to be enough is no longer enough. The industries and the places that we are changing, and it feels like there's not a lot that is really stopping it anymore. We kind of feel like we either have to evolve with the times or feel left behind. Another external sign is that your life needs may have changed. So for some of us, that might mean I now need flexibility in my schedule because I need to care for an aging parent or my child who has differing abilities or differing needs. I might need to be able to be available at this certain amount of time because X, Y, and Z. Maybe my personal health has changed and the way that I interact with the concept of work has to change and I have to pivot in order to honor my needs at this moment in time. And lastly, when we talk about those external signs, I want you to think about the existence of like stagnation. So this is different than feeling trapped in those internal signs. In the external, think about if there's a ceiling and there's nowhere left to go in terms of your career. You feel like there's no more moves left, there's no advancement, there's no room for promotion or expansion. That may let you know that you might want to consider pivoting. All right. How are people feeling so far? Are we scale of 1 to 10? Are we feeling aligned? Is this feeling like information that fits you? Now you should let me know what we're hearing.
All right. 10. Okay. I see 10s across the board.
All right, 10,
10.
10,
Yes.
10.
10, 10, 10.
Lovely. All right, so let's keep moving forward, keeping track of my time. So I want us to talk about the difference and the concepts of being burnt out versus being misaligned. So we know these are terms that come up often kind of in pop culture, pop psychology, and for this workshop I wanted us to make sure that we really define these for ourselves. So when in this workshop when we talk about the concept of feeling burnt out, I want you to think about I am exhausted. And then when we're thinking about feeling misaligned, I want you to think of the phrase, this doesn't fit. All right. So just to create a little bit more difference here, burnout often is referring to us feeling like there's too much stress, there's too much pressure. These demands that are on me are unsustainable. I can't keep moving like this. This is not going to be something that I can keep doing. The question that I would encourage you to ask yourself if you're trying to kind of decipher between burnout and misalignment is if you could imagine the same type of work under healthier conditions, does it now sound appealing to you again? I'll repeat that. Can you imagine the same type of work under healthier conditions? So your schedule like gets better, your maybe they increase the pay, maybe they do something, they increase your PTO, whatever it may be. If the conditions get healthier, does this sound appealing to you again? That's the question I want you to think about. Naisha, I see the chat's going off. Anything I should know?
Oh, yes, yes. And someone say yes, I'd love a healthy environment.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, moving to misalignment, when we think of misalignment, you could very well be doing the work, but you might feel empty. You might feel like it's constraining. It just doesn't fit you anymore. It doesn't light you up in the same way, or it just feels disconnected from the person that you are now or the person that you feel like you're becoming. Can people hear the difference between those two things? So the burnout being, if this were to get better, I would be able to do this. And then the misalignment being like, this doesn't fit me anymore. Okay. So the question I want you to ask yourself when you're trying to decipher for misalignment is, even in an ideal version of this job, would I still want to do it long term? So even if we fixed everything, is this still the job I want to do? If your answer is no, you might be feeling misaligned. If your answer is yes, you might be leaning more towards something else. All right. So I want to make sure we say this before we move forward. Both of these things can exist in the same person. So this can coexist. You can feel burnt out and you can feel misaligned. And they can be experienced in isolation as well. You can feel purely burnt out, and if everything changed, you'd feel fine again. You could feel purely misaligned. All things considered, this just doesn't fit me anymore. But I want you to know you are allowed to pivot in either circumstance. All right. Next thing I want us to talk about is the emotions that might come up when you are considering or in the midst of a pivot for your career or anywhere else in your life, quite frankly. So this is not an exhaustive list. If the emotion that you often feel is not on here, no, that doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist. It's just not on the list here. All right. So you might experience anxiousness, you might experience apathy. So that meaning like that numbness, nothing really matters anymore, nothing really interests me anymore. You might experience confusion. One that I like to spend just a little bit of time on is envy. So if we talk about the idea of envy and jealousy, many people think of this as an emotion that kind of just needs to be pushed to the side. I'm not supposed to feel that. That's not okay. I would encourage you, if you have the bandwidth, to spend some time being curious if you feel jealous or envious of someone, especially if we're thinking career stuff, because that can maybe give you some helpful information on what you feel may need to change in your life, what it is that you may feel like you want to be working towards that's not happening right now, something that is not working for you right now. So instead of the focus being on what this person's doing and what they have, if you can go inward and really reflect, it might give you some information about what you feel may be missing for you. We may talk about the emotion of embarrassment. So I've heard many people say like, I put all this time in for this degree, I put all this time in for these certifications, and then for me to go do this other thing, that's embarrassing. Like it looks like I didn't know what I was doing. That is a script. Those are things we could talk about in something else, but be mindful that embarrassment can let you know there's something coming up for you that doesn't necessarily feel allowed, essentially. You might be excited. Pivoting doesn't always have to feel painful. It doesn't always have to feel negative or bad in any kind of way. You might genuinely be excited of, I'm excited to move to this new thing. I'm excited for more or less or different, whatever that is for you. And we know fear. Fear can very much accompany change of, I don't know what this is going to look like. I'm not sure what the future holds. I am afraid of not knowing. I'm afraid of failure, whatever that may look like. You might also experience feelings of grief. So, the loss of the person that you were before, the loss of the person that may have started the journey, the losses you incurred along the way of this journey to getting to this point, or the loss of knowing. So, at one point, you may have been laser focused on what you wanted to do and what you wanted to know. And then here you are coming up on this point in your life where I don't know anymore. That doesn't always feel very good when you pride yourself on being clear and knowing what you want. There can often be feelings of guilt that accompany pivoting. So, that idea of, for many of us, maybe we have this idea that our families or the people that surround us have sacrificed so much for me to have what I have and for me to get to this place. If I were to pivot and do something else, I would be wasting everything that they did for me, everything that all the resources that they poured into me, all of the emotional space that they held for me. This is all for nothing. So, people might experience guilt. People might experience hope, irritability. feeling overwhelmed. There's so many things in the air. When we're talking about a pivot, you're kind of holding two parts of things at one time or multiple things at one time. So it's very easy to feel overwhelmed. And for some of us, we might feel relieved that there's finally an answer for why we feel so tense, because I might need to do something else. I might need to do something differently. And then restlessness is also that idea of like, I just can't settle. I just can't stop thinking about whatever this thing is that I need to do or need to change. And sadness. So that idea of, I don't like this feeling. I feel low. I feel tearful. That might accompany feelings of pivoting too. Can anyone relate to any of these feelings? If someone can just put in the chat what emotion they often feel when they're thinking about pivoting, to the extent that you feel comfortable sharing, of course. Naisha, if you can let me know what's happening.
Yes, that first one was fear, mommy
Mhm.
guilt,
Mm,
anxiousness and fear, excitement and fear, anxiousness, both fear and excitement,
thank you.
grief, mhm, and work.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for sharing and being so honest in what's happening for you. And I hope that each of you can see each other and know that you're likely not alone in the feelings that you're having. You're not making this up. This is not you overreacting. These are real experiences that you are having in relation to wanting to do something to change the trajectory or what your life looks like. All right. So, next thing I want us to talk about is the idea of when you're considering a pivot, there are some decisions that you may need to make. So, first one is, does this pivot need to happen over time, or is this pivot urgent? And what factors are contributing to your assessment of this? So, to give you a quick example, is this a pivot that you can do over the next 6 to 12 months? I can start interviewing, I can start doing this, I can start doing that, and then by this time next year, I expect to be here. Versus perhaps the pivot that you need to make is urgent. Maybe you have a medical experience that's like, if you don't quit, I'll quit. Essentially, something about my medical health or my physical health is really going to respond in a way that is not good for me. I might need to make a pivot immediately. So I want you to think about when you're thinking or considering a pivot, can this happen over time or does it truly need to be urgent? I also want you to think about this next piece of, does it need to be a partial pivot? So, for example, staying in the same field but restructuring your responsibilities or your schedule, or perhaps staying in the same field but doing a different role? Or do you feel like you need to do a full pivot to something else entirely? For example, I knew a psychologist that went through all of the training, and then at the end, she was like, you know what? I'm gonna be a wedding planner. Now, one could argue that skill set transfers really well. I think it could. I think there's some overlap there, but she made the decision to make a full pivot. You went to school, you did all these things, and then she decided for herself, I want to be a wedding planner, and she had a booming business. She had a really great business. I would love to know how she's doing now, I imagine, and I'm hoping she's doing great. Um, the next piece is, what are the components of work that you are desiring to pivot away from? Are you wanting to pivot away from being busy, away from a fixed schedule, away from X, Y, and Z? Whatever those variables are for you, I want you to name what they are when you can. The other piece is, what are you wanting to pivot towards? I want to pivot towards flexibility. I want to pivot towards something that really honors my creativity or honors my love for being outside. Whatever that is for you, name what are you pivoting away from and what are you wanting to pivot towards. Some other variables that I would want you to consider are your resources. So that includes your financial resources, your emotional resources, your interpersonal resources, the relationships and the kind of support that you're going to need throughout that process, your capacity. So, do you have the capacity to make a pivot right now? Do you even have the energy to do everything that you would need to do? That needs to factor into your decision about pivoting. Maybe if your capacity is low, this might turn into a pivot over time, but we condense the time frame. It can really be whatever you make it, whatever you may need it to be. Also, of course, want you to consider your livelihood. We still live in a capitalistic society. We all still have to survive. We all have to eat. We all have to do things. So consider your livelihood whenever you're making these decisions about pivots. I won't tell you what's best for you, but I trust that you know what's best for you and what's best for your household. I'd also tell you to consider your potential to absorb and navigate risk. Pivoting can sometimes be risky. There is an unknown factor. There can be an unknown piece to pivoting. We may not know what this looks like. If I launch this new business, when will it be profitable? If this, then what? So some of us may have the resources, and we named those different kinds of resources to take bigger risks. And some of us may need to take smaller risks based on the resources that we have available at any given moment in time. And then last but not least, your evolving needs for support. So if you know that you need help with childcare or you need help being able to leave the house so that you can do X, Y, and Z or like whatever your needs for support may be, consider those when you are considering your pivot. All right. How are we doing on time? Oh, sure. We'll be all right. Okay. All right. So we're going to get to this part of starting right where you are. So we know sometimes we can pivot under pressure. Sometimes we are pivoting under duress. Sometimes we are pivoting just because we feel like it. So it's not always going to be this like high pressure, high tense decision, but sometimes it really is. And I think it's important for us to name that. It may not always feel fun and whimsical to pivot. It may feel really heavy sometimes. So I wanted us to talk about some ways that you can start to release the pressure. I put a picture of a pressure cooker on here. Hopefully, some people are familiar with this. If you've had good oxtail, this is where it came from, just so you know. All right. So, when we think about potential ways to release this pressure, I want you to think about connecting with people who are also considering pivots. It can feel really I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I actually will ask you to put yes or no in the chat. When you're thinking about making a radical change in your life, yes or no, is it hard to talk to people who are okay with the way that things are? Can it be difficult? What do we hear,
Yes,
Naisha?
yeses, yeses. Yep, very, yep.
Yes. So it can be helpful if you make a concerted effort to connect with people who are also considering pivots. Pivots require creativity. It requires us to think more expansively. It requires us to kind of just be a little bit more just more creative than we may usually be. Like, okay, if I need to make 2,000 more dollars a month here, how many more things can I put on Etsy? And then like we just need to get a little bit more creative. And sometimes being around people who are also doing that can be really helpful. I would encourage you to attend informational meetings. So, part of the pressure is the pressure of not knowing, the pressure of not knowing what something consists of, what it's going to entail, how much is it, what do I need to invest, this, and that. And when you get information, it can kind of release some of the pressure of not knowing. And then you can start planning your increments towards whatever that is. I would encourage you to practice small moments of acceptance. So if that's just, this is how I feel today, this is the way I want to pivot, I want to do something else, I don't need to judge that. I don't need to make a big meaning out of it. I'm just going to acknowledge it and move forward. I want something different. I don't have to know what that looks like in this moment. And then lastly, I would encourage you to have a safe space to express your unique pivot process. So, for example, if you journal, if you use voice notes, if you attend a support group, if you have like faith-based places that you go, if you attend therapy, those are places where you can express your unique pivot process. Because let's be honest, when we are pivoting, we can kind of, some of us can feel like we're losing it just a little bit. Like, I'm trying to get all these things together. I've got 17 things up in the air all at the same time. I just dropped something. I don't know. Like, I just can't keep up. So, having a space where there are like-minded people, there are people that are there to support you, or if you do this on your own, just having your own designated time to really kind of go over your experience and capture it somewhere can be really important. All right, let me look at the time. Perfect. So we are going to spend not too much because I got 10 minutes, but we're going to spend 2 minutes here of I want you to practice going inward for a moment. And so I've got a little journal, a few, not little, a few. I've got a few journal questions here for you. I want you to pick one for the sake of time. So I'll read them out to you and I'll leave them on the screen. First question is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would that thing be? The next question is, where do you need grace in your pivot process? What would grace sound like and feel like? And then last question, describe your relationship with uncertainty and how do you navigate it? All right. I'm gonna put a minute on my timer and we will come back together and discuss. Feel free if you want to put your answer in the chat or if you want to journal to yourself. And Naisha, if you could give us our good lo-fi beats, please.
I do apologize. I can't share it while you're sharing your screen.
Oh no.
I'm
All
so
right.
sorry.
No worries.
It could be a setting that I didn't check off when I set up this webinar.
Oh, no problem. Okay, can we switch? Can you do the
Yeah,
timer and I do the music? Okay.
yeah.
I don't know. Are you able to hear it? Nope.
No, Zoom
You
has gotten
know,
so good with
we'll just
no.
work in
We just work.
silence.
Yep, yep.
Take about 10 more seconds to wrap up. And feel free to screenshot these questions if you want to answer them later. Okay, let's come back together. I would love if anyone is comfortable sharing what question they answered and what their answer to the question was. Naisha, if you could please help me out. It is thundering at my house, so y'all might hear my dog have a moment. One moment, please.
Of course. So the first one we have is if I knew I couldn't fail, I would open my own sewing lounge fabric store. Someone else also shared, if I knew I couldn't fail, I would be more visible in my career in creating and sharing thought leadership online and in real life.
Beautiful. Okay. So for this next exercise, I want you to think about the other side of your pivot. I know this is very condensed, but I want you to think about for a moment, think about what's on the other side of this pivot. So the questions that you can choose to answer here are what's on the other side of your pivot? What changes would you see in your capacity and overall wellness? Who would you be on the other side of this pivot? And what would the people you care about notice? Sorry. What would people that care about you notice in you after this pivot takes place? So take a minute and answer that, and then we'll come back together. All right. I know it feels really crunch for time, but if people are ready, is anyone willing to share in the chat what they answered and which question you answered?
All right. Someone shared on the other side would be freedom and lightness in my spirit.
Hmm. Okay. I trust that everyone's probably still writing and doing something. So as much as I would love to hear about it, we will move forward for the sake of time. So I want to make sure everyone gets their chance for their questions. Okay. So, last thing I want us to do, the title of your workshop is Permission to Pivot. So, who would I be if we didn't give you some permission slips to leave this workshop with? So, I'm going to read these permission slips to you, and then in the chat, I want you to name which of the permission slips really resonates with where you are right now for yourself. So, permission slip number one, I am allowed to give myself grace during my pivot. I am doing something I haven't done before. Permission slip number two, I am allowed to expand beyond what was once good enough for me. Permission slip number three, I am allowed to release the weight and the pressure of who I've been to create who I want to become. And lastly, permission slip number four, I am allowed to change my mind, especially when I have more information. And at the bottom here, I encourage you, take whatever you need as it relates to these permission slips and make what isn't here. If there's a permission slip you need that's not up here, make it. Make it for yourself. If that's a post-it note, if you really make it and print it out, do whatever you need to do. All right, Naisha, let me know what's coming up in the chat.
Yeah. So someone said, do I have to pick one only?
No,
Definitely
you
permission.
don't. You're welcome to pick whatever you need.
Okay, yeah. So someone said I need one and three, permission slip number three. I shared number two. We have four, four, three, two and four, two and three, 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 three and four. It's a wide variety.
Okay. Okay, it sounds like it's a good distribution of what people need. Well, I'm hoping that each of you got something from this. I want to thank you. I want to make sure I thank you for your time. Thank you for being your attention, your willingness to engage. I know that this is a more compact workshop experience, so please know that you have the questions. If you screenshotted them, you can feel free to expand on them at your own pace and not feel rushed. If you want to keep in touch with me, my email is listed up here. My Instagram is also listed up here if you wanted to follow me. Um, I wanted to make sure I shouted out the Holding Space Foundation again and thank them again for this opportunity. And last but certainly not least, I want to have this QR code up here. And Aisha, if you could drop that link if you haven't already. I am offering another workshop next week. And so if you want to know more, I encourage you to open this QR code or use the link that Naisha sent. And if you could sign up for that email list, and then in the chat, once you've done it, if you're choosing to do it, if you could just put done for me, that would be really helpful. And then we will move to your questions.
Awesome. Someone asked, where will we see the recording? It'll be sent to you within 24 to 48 hours, and it'll also be on YouTube as well.
Are there any duns, Naisha?
There are two done so far
Okay, lovely.
and done.
All right. So while people are doing that, I want to respect the time.
Mhm.
If there are questions, if people want to put their question in the chat, or if you, is it okay if people come off mute, Naisha?
Yes, people can come off mute, and if you don't feel comfortable coming off mute, you can send it to me privately. But I do want to respect everyone's time. We have a wonderful group today. So I do have someone asked a question previously. I would love to address that since it was asked first. Dr. Campbell, so what if the misalignment is due to the career environment? I feel I would never be equal for Black women.
Hmm. I want to know more about
Mhm.
that question. Is the person that asked that, are you willing to give a little bit more detail, whether in the chat or off coming off mute?
Sure, sure. It's no problem. Hi, Dr. Campbell. My name's Kelly. I guess I was referring to my own personal experience. I experienced burnout that eventually became misalignment. I come from corporate aviation. So I was a corporate pilot. I was the only Black woman in my entire flight department, very small network. So again, it's a thing where when you said imagine wanting to do the thing that you did in the event that you could have an environment where that fits, that industry is 94% white male. So what does something that's so misaligned in its system, how does
Mm.
that work in that sort of circumstance?
Yeah, that is a good question. That I don't think I'll have a specific answer, but what I will say is, are there any ways for you to create a path that honors this interest in a way that I would say, because the system's going to exist until it's dismantled, if it gets dismantled. That's up, let's be honest, that's still up in the air. So, are there any ways for you to express this interest, this passion in a way that still protects you? Is that feasible? Is there any way to be creative about what that may look like, what that may entail? Does that give any kind of clarity for you, Kelly?
It does, and I really appreciate that. I think for me, it's probably moving out of it as a career at this time, and because I don't love it anymore. But there's a
Sure.
part of me that does miss flying because of, what
Mhm.
it was for me individually. But what that industry looks like as a Black woman right now, I'm not interested. So thank you for that perspective. That does give me something to kind of explore when the time is right. Right now, I'm in school and pivoting into a completely different career entirely.
Understandable. I would also tell you to consider that partial pivot as well. Of if you still have to exist in the structures and institutions that can very well be harmful to us, is there anywhere that you can supplement those places of meeting those needs that aren't being met in that system? So the places where you need to feel connection and belonging and to feel acknowledged, we know they might not come from that place that you're speaking of, but is there anywhere that that can be supplemented and nourished in a different way? So it may not be an all or nothing, but can it be a supplementation kind of thing?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we have another question. How do you move past the fear of pivoting? What tools specifically?
Ooh, I was like, without going into therapy, what would I say? Um, I think my first thought would be the language of moving past the fear versus moving with and moving through the fear. The fear may accompany you through many parts of your pivot. So if there's an expectation that you're just not going to feel fearful anymore, that might not be realistic. Fear often lets us know that there's something important to us that is happening. There's something being added that is important. There might be something that's changing or something that's being taken away or moved that lets us know that it's important. So I would encourage you to think about your relationship with fear and what the idea that it has to be done with or completely eliminated. And is there a way that you can coexist with it? You can do things while you are fearful. You can acknowledge the fear, you can soothe the fear, but it might be there as that reminder of this is important to you.
And someone shared, I love the idea and perspective about fear.
Thank you.
Hmm.
I'm still, listen, I do things afraid right now. I'm not even gonna hold you. I'm being honest with you.
All right. And if you have any more questions, I'm scrolling up just in case.
Hmm.
Um,
I appreciate you so much, Naisha.
yeah, of course. All right. And if anyone wants to come off mute, we have a little bit more time. We have 5 more minutes.
I'll add another prompt. If there aren't questions that are coming up, I would love to know what one thing is that you're taking away from this workshop. Is there anything that you want to implement? And while you're thinking of that, I do see a hand. Brandy, did you want to come off mute?
I'm sure. I I can't see me, but I guess I'm here.
I can
I
see you.
I got to move my screen around. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for this tonight. Really needed. I've experienced burnout, still experience burnout. My job told me that I would lose like $16,000 if I went into non-management. And these days, it's like I don't want to keep doing this. I just want to be here for me and be worried about me. But then again, you have to keep those other things in mind. So I just appreciate the conversation tonight.
Thank you, Brandy. And I hope you find whatever works for you, because that's wild. But that's a wild thing to tell somebody. I just don't know. I won't even get on my soapbox, but I'm hoping the best for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Elaine? Elani? Oh, tell me if I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. You're right, Elaine.
Okay.
I'm super grateful to be here with you all this evening, and thank you for the space, echoing what has already been shared. I think what's coming up for me, what the pivot is, I appreciate you touching on grief, because I think as new things or chapters are closing, the pivot is happening, and I feel this deep, like, it's not a physical loss, but it's like you were sharing earlier, this normalcy that I have clinged on to that's no
Yes.
longer there. And so how do I honor myself with that? And thank you for naming with fear too, because I'm like, I don't want it to go away. I want to figure out how to flow with it or become a friend to fear.
Hmm.
So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
I have a really good question. Well, it's a good question for me. How do affirmations play into this specific topic? Sometimes they can feel like pouring water on top of an extremely oily surface.
First of all, love the visual. Thanks for that. Um, I think affirmations are very personal to people, like in the ways that they are implemented, in the ways that they're used. So when we're thinking about pivoting, I would encourage you to think about what you may need to hear the most. Like when I'm thinking about doing something completely new or completely out of my wheelhouse, what do I need to be reassured of? I need to be reassured that I've done hard things before. There have been other times in my life where I didn't know what was next, and I still did it. I have managed to get to this point today with the intellect and the resources that I have. So, being able to think about if you want to implement affirmations, I would encourage you to approach it perhaps from the lens of what kind of reassurance do you need to hear when you're doing something that maybe you've never done before, maybe you've never pursued before, or again, maybe it's not in that framework of fear, maybe it's in that framework of relief and excitement. What kind of affirmations would accompany that of I am doing what feels most aligned for me. I am honoring my needs. I am honoring what I know to be true about myself. Like creating the affirmations, if you so choose, that really speak to whatever it is that that person needs to hear in that moment.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
All right. We have literally 1 more minute.
I'm gonna stop our share so I can see
Yes.
people.
Okay, sweet. Do you have any closing remarks for us? I think we can go into that now.
Uh, my closing remark would be it takes a lot of courage to know that you need to pivot. It takes a lot of courage to even engage with the idea of pivoting. And so, when you are in the midst of it, when you are considering it, when you're doing it, even afterwards, please, please, please be patient with yourself. You are expanding, you are growing, you are moving and contorting in ways that need you to sometimes be more still than usual, be nicer, be gentler than usual. You might have to start thinking about the ways in which you speak to yourself and the expectations that you have of yourself. But know that I want you to keep thinking about whatever that is for you that's on the other side of that pivot and what that will look and feel like for you. And know that you are allowed to pivot even if nothing outrageous has happened. I really want y'all to have that piece of information. No one has to cross you. No, nothing has to have exploded. You can just decide, I don't want it anymore. I actually really would like to do something else. So I hope that that kind of frees some people up too, because we often think that something had to have happened to make us pivot, and that is not always the case. You can just choose.
Thank you so much for this. I am smiling. I am happy. The chat is showing much gratitude. And I put the link a couple of times in the chat. If you've already, of course, if you enjoyed this workshop, the next workshop is next week. Please sign up. I'll be there if my schedule allows. But I'm definitely signing up. And Dr. Campbell, thank you so much for all you've done tonight. And of course, what you've done with the Holding Space Foundation. I have my journal here. I'm going to finish it. Again, if you all didn't take a screenshot, the recording will be sent tomorrow. If you want to review it over the weekend, I'm sending everyone love. Dr. Campbell, thank you so much again.
So welcome. And thank you all for being here. Take care and have a good evening.
Bye bye. You too.